feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Dane Moore NBA podcast. We are brought to you by Prize Picks. Coming at Thursday afternoon, it's October 30th after the Wolves' 1-point loss to the Los Angeles Lakers on Wednesday night. The plan for today's show is to start by focusing on the end of that game. The Wolves were down by 11 with 4 minutes and 42 seconds to go. Came all the way back to taking the lead with 20 seconds to go in the game before Austin Reeves made that final shot. We'll talk about what worked for the Wolves to make that comeback, and we'll also discuss why it's a bit frustrating that it took until 5 minutes left in that game to feel like they were playing with enough effort to really get any sort of momentum going. Britt also wrote his weekly column this week on three things: the Wolves' defense thus far, the backcourt problems they've been having at point guard, and then also Randle's game being the Wolves' offensive skeleton key so far. So we'll cycle through those three topics as well, and more of a, I guess, macro level that isn't completely tied into last night's Lakers game. So that's what's coming up on today's show with Britt Robson. Let's go.
Hey, yeah.
All right, we are now joined by Britt Robson. Britt, I actually have a handful of clips in this episode I'd like us to play a little bit to give. I think it's important for us to give some of the players and coaches perspective on what's been going on recently, because I don't think it's really very much worth it. Yeah, turbulent, or just for me to be like, oh, the defense isn't working again, for the fourth episode in a row. I do think, there's some value in listening to what Finch and those players are saying, because they're not just kind of brushing off what has been a rough start to this season. Right. In ways, I think they kind of did brush off some of the feeling out process last season. Talking to some of the players yesterday, there's an urgency. There's a this isn't working right now, we need to make it work element. So,
they went in really hard in the preseason and in media day, saying, day one, it's really important to get organized early. And one of the things we didn't have last year was that continuity and that knowledge and that settled, we're pivoting into the season from a good spot. That's been exposed, and I think that's one of the reasons they acknowledge they would be hypocritical not to take it seriously at this point.
And I think they're taking it seriously because I do think they see ways to address it.
Oh, good.
Or that, and of course there are ways to address when it's been bad right now, there hasn't been Anthony Edwards. Right. That's at least a pretty big factor in this rough start thus far. But anyways, I want to hit about a few different things you wrote about, the defense, the backcourt problems, and Julius Randle's kind of strong start. I want to hit on those things, but let's start by talking about the end of the game.
Absolutely.
Last night, because I do think the focus and effort turned up for the Wolves. Low bar, but definitely happened in the fourth quarter there. They started finding some things defensively with the zone. I thought they had a better flow to the offense, making easy reads and stuff faster. So I think it's important to look at the fourth quarter, because you're like, okay, there is a path forward here of something that's been working. But I'm curious how much of that you take as a positive of okay, there's a pathway here forward to make things work, versus sort of being like, what the hell? Why only when the game
the glass is half full, but it was 1/8 empty until 4 minutes to play.
Yeah,
or 1/8 full.
So what did you make of that end of the game? Are you encouraged by that, or is it more raise the flag of this team isn't playing that way consistently?
Actually, I didn't look at it either way that way. I looked at it first of all, Mike Conley was great. And the first thing I thought of, why in the world did they not start Mike Conley in Portland? I mean, it felt like that particular move was like a white flag that, hey, we have to acknowledge that this guy needs to be shepherded a little bit more than we thought he would. And then the evidence of at least the first two games and first three probably was conclusive that way. At least it seemed that way. And then we see Mike Conley leading the defense as well as the offense. I thought, hey, getting into people on the perimeter is a new experience for the Timberwolves this year. And Conley led that. And so if Mike Conley is that good to go, that opens up some questions about the whole point guard situation.
Sure.
To me. So that was, that's one of the things that I got out of that.
It was great at the end of the game.
And also, make or miss league, they made their threes, and they had good looks and they moved the ball. I don't think they moved the ball enough in the half court on offense. I think it's revealing that they had their lopsided scoring. Once again, two guys getting 40% of the points.
Yep.
I think that's anti-ball movement. And so I thought that changed in that run that they made. And I just think that, there were some people not on the court that made a difference. Nas Reid wasn't on the court. Terrence Shannon wasn't on the court. Rob Dillingham wasn't on the court, a little less because he's just gotten thrown into the water. But I do think that Nas and Shannon have really hurt this team. And I think that it was one of those weird cases where fewer minutes for both of them or a little bit slightly better play from either one of them would have made a difference. So I think it was more how the personnel that were on the floor were reacting. And then, of course, the final play, Finch took blame for that, but it was a weird situation where it was an odd place to see Rudy Gobert in space getting split.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the whole play. I understand how the whole pick and roll evolved, but that gets into a greater argument about pick and roll defense that I have right now. So those are my thoughts about that. What about you?
Yeah, let me play the Finch clip.
Okay.
Of the final play of the game is the Lakers run a high pick and roll with Austin Reeves and DeAndre Ayton.
Extremely predictable play.
Yes, right. They knew that was coming, and that had been a great action for the Lakers the entirety.
Austin Reed had 27 assists in his last two games against the Wolves.
Yeah, 16 last night, right?
Yeah.
Only 11 the other one.
The
Yeah.
first one.
After in the playoffs last year, Reeves was no good
Right.
Against this team. So anyways, here's Finch on that final possession where they run that high pick and roll. The Wolves play kind of like a high drop, and Reeves splits the coverage and gets by Gobert and hits a little 10-footer.
Avoiding the DiVincenzo charge attempt. He was right outside the arc.
Yep.
And he was ready to take that charge, and Reeves adroitly hit the floater instead.
Yep. So here's Finch on that.
I mean, I thought we did a good job of executing the foul to give. Then after the possession, after that, it's on me. I should have had Rudy just switch. We got split in coverage, and we should have just blacked it, just switched it, and just kept everybody in front.
A different tone of taking blame for the defense, whereas after the previous game against Denver, Finch was calling out needing more from Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert in those situations. I agree. I think they do need to switch that in that scenario.
Right.
It's too easy with that much space when they're going to be that wide for a player, especially of Reeves' caliber and how well he's playing.
Because who Gobert be switching off of was Ayton, who is out of his range. I mean, he might have been able to get in for his floater, but I'll take an Ayton floater over a Reeves floater any day.
Let him try to take a dribble into something there. Yes. So switching, as Finch said, it was a mistake. He regrets it. Wishes they would have gone to that. You mentioned who was on the floor, or you mentioned who wasn't on the floor. Who was on the floor in the fourth quarter for the Wolves was they went to the starters with 10 minutes to go left in the game. It was pretty clearly one of those Chris Finch, like, we're taking one more strong stab at this thing to see if we can cut it down to a reasonable margin. And, if not, if it got up to 20 or whatever, there got to be, if it was a 15-point game with 4 or 5 minutes left, I think he probably would have gone to the bench and been like, let the starters go, or let the starters come to the bench. Instead, starters played the whole end of the game. Terrence Shannon Jr. came in for Jaden McDaniels at one point to give Jaden a blow, because Jaden had been in the third quarter too. He'd been in for a really long period of time. So you have the new starters, Mike Conley, Dante DiVincenzo, Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, and Rudy Gobert out there. I thought it was their best probably defensive quarter easily of the season.
If only the Portland fourth. maybe.
Yeah, maybe that
Right,
too. One
but
of them.
those two.
Yeah, significantly different than what we've been seeing as the standard
Absolutely.
for the defense this season. Thought it was interesting that they relied on zone a lot in the fourth there to kind of find
Right.
some sort of defensive shell or pressure or just a way to kind of slow Reeves, but that's where it came from.
I think it's hard to run pick and roll against the zone.
Yeah.
And their pick and roll defense has just been awful.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I couldn't figure out, synergy would probably have exactly like the Wolves against pick and roll ball handler, pick and roll man or whatever. The only thing I could come up with is what opponents are shooting 5 to 9 feet. They're shooting 61.4%, which is the worst in the NBA. 23 teams are under 50%.
Wow.
They're at a 61.4. And then 10 to 14 feet, 63%, which is third, incredibly. But 17 teams are below 50%. So they're well over 60% from 5 to 14 feet. That's pick and roll territory,
Well, and I remember in the preseason doing a lot of what was the defense 2 years ago and how close can you get back to it? And if you do go through the underlying numbers of that season and why when the Wolves were the number one defense, it was from a shot selection standpoint, they were allowing a ton of shots from that range that you're describing.
Right.
And they had the best defensive field goal percentage against that.
Because
so I do think
they
that's
were
a good
so
sign.
good at the rim and both lucky and good from 3-point range. They were really good at the areas that are the most efficient areas. And to be fair, they are pretty good in terms of I think they're 58.5% from 0 to 5 feet, and that was I think it was in the top 5. So the
they're gonna guard
Gobert,
the rim.
the criticisms about Gobert, while there, a lot of that is level of drop and chase, the chase on the perimeter by the other people, and Rudy's ability to synchronize with that chase to get people who at the rim. He can still get people at the rim. There is a lot of straight line drive, right up the gut. And some of that is they're not getting back. But in terms of half court defense, Rudy isn't terrible at the rim. And again, he makes loud mistakes, but he makes a lot of quiet, good things happen too.
Yeah, I do wonder to do a eighth of a glass full, half full sort of thing.
Sure.
When I think about that, and I think about pick and roll coverage breaking down for a team who is elite in pick and roll coverage,
Right.
something's different, right? And what a lot of people are going to point to, and specifically if you look at that last play of the game, is Rudy. And I don't think Rudy hasn't been showering himself in glory defensively at all here, but there is a for sure difference when we talk about pick and roll coverage. It's that the point of attack defenders are different this year. I mean, in that it's Jaden a lot of the time there.
Right.
And we've talked about that. We've talked about Jaden needing to be attached more, doing a better job at the point of attack. But if you go back to that, again, that defense of 2 years ago, and if that's they could go deep into a bag of point of attack defenders. And this team right now doesn't have the depth of the bag, and their second and third best point of attack defender are currently hurt. The two players who are hurt right now, and Anthony Edwards and Jalen Clark. So that's leading to this distance, this fluff area that's allowing players to get into that middle area and kill.
Totally agree. And what you see is people getting hung up on the screen way too often, and the recovery by the other guy, sometimes it's Rudy, but it's not always Rudy. I mean, these pick and rolls, they're not picking up the ball handler off the screen nearly enough. Two things are happening. They're getting hung up on the screen, and the help or the switch, whatever you want to call it, isn't efficient enough. They're getting a ton of open looks for the ball handler on pick and roll, I think. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker, my friends, the best pick splitter that I have seen on this team.
Sure.
He was just the best at eliding the screen. Now, Jaden is better because of his length and because his doggedness, in some respects. But I would say Clark could be where Na is now, but Na just had an ability to slip the screen so completely that everybody knew they didn't have to switch.
Yeah.
And that is what's missing right now is there's confusion at the point of switch or hold on the pick and roll. And the instincts are wrong either way, I think sometimes. And Jaden has been hung up on screens a lot more than I am used to seeing him hung up. And then the other thing is, like, this is Austin Reeves's bread and butter. And this is, we're seeing a couple of people that are burning the Wolves on that. Indiana does a pretty good job on some of that. Luka, obviously.
Right.
But it's if you don't defend the pick and roll well in the NBA, you have a problem.
Yes. And they've always like defended it with two, right? Like
right.
The guy at the point of attack, often Jaden, and then Rudy's the back line. They don't bring help. And I thought over the course of the game, part of it was the zone, but I think Finch is starting to make adjustments to pack it in a little bit more to provide additional help there.
Even like guys like DiVincenzo, who normally would be on an island, he's helping, and he's using DiVincenzo for help. I mean,
but then DiVincenzo has to fly back out to the 3-point shooters.
Exactly.
Of packing it in more and giving Rudy and Jaden more help in that space is going to open up the 3-point line for the opponent to take advantage of, which the Lakers did last night too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what it really comes down to is what you said. They don't have Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They didn't have Jalen Clark nor Anthony Edwards the other night. 3 really good pick and roll defenders who rugged are at the point of switch or attack of rolling. That matters.
Mm-hmm.
And it mattered in the previous game too, when Clark and Ant were out. And so
we can hold that. We can hold that, and that is true.
Yes.
Anthony Edwards and Jalen Clark are not healthy right now, and that is going to hurt the perimeter defense. But then it becomes another question about everything else. Like, okay, if you don't have them and you don't have those point of attack defenders, then what else are you doing defensively to make up for that? And I think that's where the effort needs to show, or the consistency of multiple efforts.
And also, what happened to Terrence Shannon? I mean, he's like DiVincenzo last year
in the preseason,
incredible in the preseason.
I wrote that down too.
Assuming that he's going to be as good.
Yeah.
And it's like he stepped up in class and wasn't ready for it. He's been bad on the pick and roll as well. And he was a really good defender in the preseason. And
there was the hope that he would have been the guy that you would have plugged in that spot.
And Nas I worry that Nas isn't, that this continual conditioning to make him like a wing type player is really beginning to hurt him on defense.
Yeah.
He's getting bulldozed occasionally and blown by occasionally in ways that somebody who's in his condition, you would think you wouldn't have to. But then again, Nas has always been somebody who's better in scheme and help than he is, in a specific assignment, which is one of the reasons he works so well with Rudy.
A little bit more of that happening. Yeah. A little bit more, I feel like, recently of Nas and Rudy.
Yeah. But I mean, again, both Nas and then Rob is just simply too small. And so, you had instances, especially in transition, where either Conley or Rob were the only person back. They were throwing football passes. They were
that's the weak side shooter on the opposite side. Yeah.
There were a lot of times where, they were just able to do what they want to do. And then, I mean, in the first quarter, the Lakers, committed like 4 or 5 unforced turnovers in the first 5 minutes.
Right.
Not being able to take advantage of that. It's just, the team is flailing right now. And I'm sure a lot of it comes from loudly announcing they needed to be ready to go at the starting gun and being somewhat embarrassed and chagrined that they're not. And then you inevitably get, are Rudy and Mike too old? Why isn't Rob playing? Or, what about Shannon? Why is he only getting 7 minutes this night or something? Anything that, when you're not going well, it's so easy to nitpick because you're looking for legitimate explanations why they're underperforming. And the players I'm sure, are doing the same thing, whether it's self-examination or teammate examination. And it's just, I think it's just hard. I think
it's leading to hesitation, I think, or thinking. And then I think that's part of the step slow sort of thing.
Yeah.
I want to grab our first quick break
Sure.
here, but then I do want to talk about the defense a little bit more globally of the first 5 games overall. Take a break. Back with Britt. This episode is brought to you by Treasure Island Resort and Casino, and every Sunday at Treasure Island, the Parlay Lounge is the spot to watch Vikings games. There are always prize giveaways and drink specials in the Parlay Lounge during Vikings games on Sunday afternoon. But I did want to put a special Sunday on your radar at Treasure Island. On November 23rd, the Vikings play the Packers. That's the Sunday before Thanksgiving. So maybe you and family will be in town, maybe looking for an activity, something to do that Sunday afternoon. And what they are doing at Treasure Island is hosting a watch party in the Island Event Center for the Vikings-Packers game. It is a big space that they host concerts in, and they are splitting the event center into 2 sides, Vikings side and Packers side. KS95 will be hosting the event, and I don't know, I feel like that's a pretty cool setup for Vikings Packers. Again, that's November 23rd, the Sunday before Thanksgiving. Doors open at 10:30 a.m. for Vikings Packers, starting at noon. Make Treasure Island your home turf for every Vikings game this season, and visit ticasino.com for more information. Today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks. There is no Wolves game tonight, Wednesday night, so you'll have to branch out to other NBA games to put together your Prize Picks lineup this evening if you'd like to do that. I don't know, maybe you'll be checking out Wemby and the Spurs. They play Miami. Wemby's number is set at 3.5 blocks for that game, and he is averaging 4.5 blocks per game. I was just looking at that there. But maybe you're listening to this on Thursday, and if that's the case, you will have the opportunity to put together a Prize Picks lineup for the Thursday night football game. I usually, when I do this, give you more or less than picks on yardage totals, like 50 rushing yards or 300 passing yards, whatever. But what you can do on there is just do more or less on a player's fantasy football score. And I did that for my picks today. Devon Achane, I'm going to say, has less than 17.5 fantasy points in Thursday Night Football, and that DeAndre Hopkins has more than 4 fantasy points. It's full PPR scoring on that. There's always something going on over at Prize Picks. And as a reminder, to put together a lineup at Prize Picks, all you need to do is put 2 or more picks in your lineup to win. If you don't yet have a Prize Picks account, all you have to do is put in the promo code Dane when you sign up, and you will receive $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks app using promo code Dane when you create your account. All right, we're back with Britt Robson, and we were just talking about the defense specifically to, the fourth quarter last night, and seeing some things that improved in that time, and the engagement and the multiple action sticking with it was there at the end of the game. It hasn't been there consistently throughout the course of the season. I asked Mike Conley about that after the game, and specific to 2 seasons ago, of like, what are the differences between that defense and this defense? Here's Mike.
We're aware. We have to have our heads on a swivel. We have to be, ready and willing to do the multiple actions and multiple efforts. And I think we'll make 1 or 2 efforts, and then the third one we'll just kind of relax. And on that one is when somebody cuts or somebody goes for offensive rebound. And as a whole, we can't allow that to happen.
You had a team 2 seasons ago that almost never did that, never had those issues. Why do you think that was?
It's tough. I mean, 2 years ago it was a different team, different personnel. Obviously you're gonna miss different guys' skill sets when you don't have them, but we have the guys here that can do the same things those guys are doing, and a lot of them are just younger. We're trying to get guys adjusted to that and just to the speed of how we play, and they'll get there. But as a whole, the other guys that have been here this entire time, there's no excuse for us not to be playing at that level. So you point the finger at anybody, it's got to be the group that's been here and knows what we're doing and knows how we're supposed to play.
So I thought that last piece was interesting. If we're pointing the finger anywhere, it has to be on the people
been here, right?
that are here. So yeah, we can reference Rob's size as a limiting factor. Right. Terrence Shannon Jr. We can point to, like, hey, what happened 2 weeks ago? You looked awesome. What's going on there? I agree with with Mike there that the self-examination of the team
Right.
needs to come from looking at the incumbent pieces, which is why I thought when Finch did call out Jane McDaniels and Rudy Gobert after the Denver game,
Right.
was fair, not because they're like sucking, but because they're the players who have the ability to elevate defensively in that sort of way and know what they're doing and know what the plan is.
It's like Popovich and Tim Duncan. You want to call out the guys who are best at what they do if the entire team sucks, because one, it is on them, and two, as leaders of the team, they should be able to take it and have that message be filtered down. It's kind of like if you're in a large family or something, and one of the siblings does something wrong and the parents go crazy on him, you go, okay, I'm not going to do that, Good. So, point. It's the young guys could say, okay, we're doing this wrong. And he just called out Rudy for, at the rim, or Jaden at point of attack. I can't do it that way either, So I think it was an appropriate criticism. I do think that both of them have been a half notch behind their peak time. And
who's been a further notch behind?
I think Rudy.
I do too.
I think that Jaden sometimes has gotten offensitis. Back-to-back 30-point games will make you not so much identify as a defensive stopper,
And then there's the question of like diminishing returns of energy,
that is a good point. He's so stoic that you don't know, hey, he's probably really tired.
Right.
But yeah, good point. And then, Mike was guilty until very recently. Last couple games, I think he's been really good. Nas, an obvious candidate, is just not been very good at either end of the court. He's having a really funky start to the season. And you still have to go back. I said this in this studio about 3 weeks ago. You lose slow-mo 1 year and Nah the next, you're not going to be the same defense. Those guys not only were really, really good defenders, but they were glue guy defenders. They were the kind of guys that did the little things that made everybody else look good. Yep. So even if another player could do that thing, they don't do it with the unselfishness that benefits everybody.
I have Robert Covington come into my mind for something, but yeah, like
exactly.
he was like that too.
Right.
Yeah. Jimmy was like that too.
Yeah. And those are really valuable guys. And Jalen Clark is that way.
Yep.
And his absence is felt. And, Jace has been pounding this drum. You have to, I have to. Jace is kind of taking the lead, but it's pretty obvious that if defense is the priority, then Clark needs minutes that perhaps belong to Shannon now, perhaps belong to DDD right now.
I think I feels like Jalen's got him now, like when he's healthy, right? Maybe not the starter, or maybe not 28 minutes, but
maybe that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that maybe he goes from 18 to 25 or something.
Are you saying that's your guess of what happens,
no,
or what you would?
At this point in time, I will be totally honest with you. I have no idea what the coaching staff, Finch in particular, but all the assistants. I don't know how they think they're going to address this. I do think that going zone down so much in the fourth quarter, knowing what your pick and roll defense has been like, was a very smart move, because you don't want to rely on a zone when you're trying to get a team to really be in sync and fly around. At the same time, you want to be able to point out, hey, suddenly we were able to defend people and get stops because they're not running as much pick and roll at us because of our defense or whatever. It can pinpoint the problem by going away from what you need to solve the problem and doing well. Aside from that, though, in terms of substitutions, I think that.
What about Rudy specifically? What would you What do you think, if possible, gets Rudy Gobert in a better place defensively? Or put it like this: if over the next 15 games we go, oh, after those first 5, Rudy Gobert was really good defensively.
Right.
What happened?
His teammates play better, first of all. I mean, Rudy has learned something that was very, very different than what happened in Utah, which is his teammates enable him to be more versatile on the court. And that lesson is hurting him right now. If he was playing more like he did in Utah, I do this, I'm going to do what I do. You guys figure it out.
So that's my suggestion, is play more like Utah, right? Especially with Ant out for the next week and a half.
And right now, I will say that I think Rudy relishes that because he doesn't have to think about anybody else. And I think that is hurting him right now because he understands, one, he's crucial to the defense and the leader of the defense. 2, that he sets an example. And one of the things that the example needs to be set is this kind of teamwork synchronicity that him going off and doing things on his own may not be as synchronistic, but it may be more effective because he's inserting himself so forcefully into what he's doing. But I have many more pointed criticisms than I have solutions. I don't think that is a bad solution.
Well, I'm saying transcend it over to the offensive side of the floor too. And because you do need additional levers to be able to pull offensively, it would make sense to me to lean into spread pick and roll a lot more until Anthony Edwards is back. I think that's just in a offensive vacuum. There's some logic to that. It
would certainly help Rob.
And my goal here is to help Rudy on offense, so as to get a better version of him on defense, which you don't love that those things correlate. But I think with Rudy, we know that those things do correlate.
Right.
And so I think in limited samples with Rob, and then a larger sample with Mike, that spread pick and roll look, can be profitable offensively. I think especially for Rob right now, there's value in that. Can you get then Rudy to be more engaged and involved and confident due to what he's doing on the offensive side of the floor and the impact that he's giving you on the offensive side of the floor? Because the alternative right now is 0 offensive impact if he's not getting offensive rebounds.
I agree.
So I like leaning into that a little bit more to give him confidence, maybe with some positive externalities of getting more Rob. I would play more Rob right now in this spot. And then defensively, I think you get a better version of Rudy.
Well, I happen to think right now, one of the few really kind things I could say about Rob Dillingham is that I think he's a better pick and roll partner for Rudy right now than Mike Conley. I know that would be controversial, but you need that quickness to cause the defense to adjust. You need to get free of your man in order to have the man Rudy is on,
because then it's the threat of the
away
shot
from him.
It's the threat of the shot in that spot. Then
Yes.
the quickness creates separation, which equals the fear that this guy is going to score,
going to go all the way, right?
And Mike just isn't even looking really for that.
And he can't. He's frankly not going to get that kind of separation. He may get free a little bit, but not enough for the guy to say, "Well, I know Mike Conley's looking for Rudy Gobert."
Right.
The book on Rob isn't there yet for that. But he does have a first step and he does have a crossover. Both of them get separation in the NBA. Even when he's not good at other things, he's been good at that. And so that can really help if they lean into, hey, let's use this skill to run pick and roll with Rudy. I think, we saw it. There was a little stretch of the game last night where Rob and Rudy, everybody looked at the dunk, but there were a couple other things around that.
I have them written down.
Oh, okay.
Rob played his first stint. It was an 11-minute stint, which is probably the longest period of time he's ever played consecutively in his career. He had 5 assists during that first stint out there. And there was 3 possessions in a row where they ran a spread pick and roll with Rudy and Rob. And the first one was top high quad, high screen for Rob there. Rob finds Rudy on a nice lob at the rim, finishes it with the dunk. Next possession, same thing. Ayton drops back further, or Hayes, whoever the big was out there. Rob steps into a little mid-range pull-up from like 13 feet or something like that. And then the next possession was kind of semi-transition, but Rudy was coming up looking for it again. He was coming up on Rob's right side, and Rob rejected the screen there, which is a good a good counter after you just
keep it mixed.
And Rob went for the left side layup, missed it, but Rudy followed for the dunk, which is something that happens in pick and roll all the time. I thought that was one of the most encouraging stretches of offense of the entire night. And not only my initial reaction is like, oh, Rob doing something good. Like
exactly.
Here we go. Highlight this. But then off of that, I was like, this is the most engaged I've seen Rudy look the entire season.
Yep.
I just think Rudy is a prerequisite to this team defending at a high level is getting the most out of Rudy.
With the roster you have right now, you cannot have a good defense if Rudy Gobert gets demoted to sub 30-minute play. I just don't think that can happen.
Yeah.
Rob is a tricky case. I mean, my book on Rob right now is you risk losses for development. Which is not been the Wolves' strategy, certainly the last 2 seasons, and consequently has paid off in conference finals appearances, getting those regular season wins. But I would argue that the development process of Rob Dillingham probably needs to start, even if the Wolves are risking play-in status or maybe even being out of the playoffs, because the alternatives, the whole drama around the opening day was such a fiasco. That scars DiVincenzo. He wasn't at the point that much against Indiana as a result. I mean, pressure teams. The thing about it is that not Rob's fault, because Rob is slight and inexperienced. But he played 16 minutes. The Lakers shot 65% from the field and 43% from three. When he was off the court, the Lakers shot 51% and 33% from three. Yep. That's in a 1-point game. That's huge.
Sure.
And he was -7 in 16 minutes, committed 4 fouls or 3 fouls, I think, in 16 minutes. These are going to be things that you have to have. He's not going to be a fully formed player at the age of 20 at $165. It's just not going to work that way. He's going to have to go through a lot of lumps. And if this team is thinking about top 2 or 3 or 4 in the regular season in the West, then you really can't play him. So that's the option, I think. The option is, and I'm leaning where you are right now. If they were 4-1, I wouldn't be leaning this way. But let's do development and hope that development pays off for the Shannons, the Clarks, the Dillinghams, maybe even the Berenjers, although that's even more fraught in the postseason once they have those minutes. I think that this early is when you begin to need to try to make that. You can't start to filter in guys you might want to have really contribute in the playoffs in February and March. I just don't think that's enough time, especially for the really young players.
It seems like in the roster is currently constructed with Ant and Jalen injured, that to open up more of that for Shannon and Dillingham would come at the cost of Bones Highland minutes.
Yeah. And let's face it, it's a great story and he's fun. And actually, I think was crucial in that Portland win. He did settle that down in the fourth quarter, but the future is not there. I mean, it's a very attractive second timeline that the Wolves are operating with. And Bones Highland is not part of that second timeline. He's barely a part of the current timeline. If you really want to, and he's not going to move the needle that much.
Today's show is brought to you by Your Home Improvement Company. And we know, I always say this, I know that there's some of you out there who are thinking right now, you know what, we do have a home renovation project that we need to get done. Maybe it's getting a little bit more urgent. It's almost November and you want to get it done before winter comes around. They do have the buy 2 windows, get 2 windows free deal. They do have the 30% off bathroom renovations deal going, but it can be any home improvement project. And whatever the home improvement project is at your home improvement company, it is done by certified local professionals and backed by a lifetime warranty. Whatever the project is, your home improvement company offers great financing deals on the project that requires 0 money down, 0 interest, and 0 payments until 2027. If this is you, if you're thinking about a home improvement project, we would love it if you called 866-777-YHIC to book a consultation, or go to yourhomeimprovementco.com. Your home improvement company, where it's your home made better. Today's show is also brought to you by Factor. And I've been telling you, when fall comes around in our house, we start doing Factor. It is just a busier routine for me this time of year. Going to more games at night and finding time to cook can be tough. That's why I love Factor. Their chef-prepped, dietitian-approved meals make it easy to stay on track and enjoy something comforting and delicious no matter how hectic the season gets. Factor has more variety and more meals than they ever have before. You can choose from a wider selection of weekly meal options, including premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp at no extra cost. From more choices to better nutrition, that's why 97% of customers say that Factor helped them live a healthier life, and you can feel the difference no matter your routine. I really do use this, and I think you should too. Eat smart at factormeals.com/DaneMoore50 off and use code DaneMoore50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code DaneMoore50 off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. You can find that URL and code in the show notes. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. I think the why is, I hear all that. Obviously, Rob is much more of the second timeline than Bones Highland is, right. and I do think that should be treated with a whole bunch of care. Right. And when you're playing Bones Highland, it doesn't feel like it is being treated that way.
Right.
The going with Bones, and when they're going with Bones, to me says it's almost all about defense. Yes. He came in as a defensive sub for that last possession.
It's incredible
of the game there. Yeah. And so I think if you're listening to this or you're watching Wolves games and you're asking yourself, why isn't Rob playing? I'm not saying this is right or the truth, but the actions of Finch and what he said to us in the media is that he's feeling a greater comfort with having Bones out there for defensive purposes, because while he's not huge himself, he is bigger, got a little bit more of that man strength. Yeah, and even in a slight build.
He knows
long wingspan. Yeah, that's what Finch is thinking.
He could see pick and rolls coming from 10 feet away. He doesn't have to, I'm involved in an action because somebody's coming from my blind side or whatever. The idea, first of all, that Bones Highland would be a defensive plus is a damning statement. But on the other hand, he has learned some things, and he's not the chucklehead.
Damning, but not necessarily totally untrue, given the alternatives
that's
right now.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, and given the losses of Bones Highland will be hopefully a pleasant memory in December. You do want a healthy Ant. I would take Jalen Clark sucking up all of Bones Highland's minutes, especially if Mike isn't washed, and you get Dillingham involved, and you have 40% Mike, 30% DDV, and 30% Dillingham as the point guard rotation. I'm okay with that.
Because Julius is going to take a lot of it too. Maybe in
Julius
those
and Ant are
Dante
going to
times.
be, unfortunately, it's not my favorite thing to watch, but you can't argue. Julius Randle has been fantastic on offense this year.
Let's move over to that.
All right.
You referred to him as the skeleton key to the
two
Wolves
problems.
offense.
Well, this is
right now.
before, Mike Conley resurrected himself in the fourth quarter last night.
Yeah.
But
Resurrections
don't
when you're
have a
old
good-
don't often last all that long.
yeah, I know.
So we'll see.
It
We'll
could
see.
be, one of those things where he's back in the embers.
Yeah,
the
I
end
thought it was
of-
great, but
yeah.
I don't know how
Right.
bankable it is.
Right. Ann is out, so you need a go-to scorer. He checks that box so obviously.
Yeah.
But the point guard position is in flux, and you need a competent, reliable playmaker. That is the box he continually checks. And then you have the full-throated support of the coach and the full buy-in of the player. Not necessarily on defense, by the way, although I think he tries. Randle's value is 80% offense.
Right.
And his offense has been fantastic. I mean, he's making really good decisions on passing. He's usage before Ant got injured was in the mid-20s, which is exactly where it should be in my view. He creeps up into the 30s with Ant on the court. That's too much.
Sure.
It's already something where, guys like Nas, Rudy, obviously, people are not getting touches that need touches. But, the guy is a bucket.
Yeah.
It's interesting that he's much more of a bucket in the first half than he is in the second half lately. Maybe if fatigue is an issue there.
I think that's help defender.
Yeah.
That's the Indiana game. They said one-on-one with Siakam.
Right.
And then once they stopped doing, then they started having Obi Toppin and then Tony Bradley or whatever kind of come over. That's what I think the adjustment is going to be to this big picture. I think and we saw the Nuggets do it against them too.
Yep.
Is bringing that late help from the
And
second
that's when
big.
his teammates have to hit the shots, and that's when he has to be even more of a willing passer. I think he is somewhat of a willing passer. You do see the difference, but you also every now and then he just says, "I'm getting mine." And it isn't bad. It isn't bad. I mean, like the game changing basket before it got changed back last night was definitely that.
That was one of my favorite Julius Randle play because there was a little bit of patience there too. It was like 20, I just rewatched it. There was 22 seconds left when they got the ball there, and Julius kind of like sprint dribbled it up there. He was looking for an early one.
Yep.
Which you could have taken. That would have made sense logically.
But a lot on the clock, even as we saw.
He knew that there was time to reset, and then what got it back, and went right away again through and around Jake Laravia.
Right.
I thought
Euro step split. Yeah, it was great.
It was great. And it largely, it largely has been great. And when they bring that true double team, he knows exactly how to pick that apart.
Yep.
And you referenced this quote in your article, but this is him from a couple of games ago talking about playmaking and his teammates knowing his game better now.
Does the team lean into your playmaking as much as the Wolves have the last second half of last year and beginning of this year?
Has the team leaned into it as much?
Yeah, leaned into your playmaking. Has it been as central to the offense?
It has. I mean, I had a year where I averaged 6+ assists. So, but it's just different now, and I like this a lot better. My reads are really easy, simple. Guys make the game easy for me. I know exactly what I want to do, where I want to get the ball, what's going to happen, and then my options, my reads. I get double team in the post. It's like quarterback, going through my progressions of what's happening. So, I mean, the chemistry and the rhythm is there, and I feel like it's just only going to get better.
Because Jalen Clark was saying that you already know where he wants to go, where he needs to go, and there's a communication there that was very easy to make.
Yeah.
Is that pretty true across the roster?
1,000%. 1,000%. I mean, naturally, I'm looking to pass first, because once the defense starts to open up, guys make shots in rhythm. It's easier for me to get down here, score, or get to my sweet spot. So, I mean, the rhythm is there. I think it was different for each individual. Me and Dante played together, so we had it naturally. But Mike, Nas, Jade, and it took time. Rudy, it took time. So I'm happy where we're at now, and I feel like it's going to get a lot better.
So I think that's another 1/8 full, half full sort of thing,
Yeah.
is that part's pretty awesome.
Yes.
Thus far this season, and feels very repeatable. I've kind of been like waiting around for the bad Julius Randle game,
Mm-hmm.
and just to see how much that sinks it. Because right now it feels like if Julius has
Right.
a bad game, like it would be impossible for the Wolves to stay within 20 points.
Agreed.
With
Especially,
Anton.
since it would involve turnovers.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
when he's bad, he turns it over, and those are usually bad
Mm-hmm.
turnovers. But he's been smarter about that. You know,
Yeah.
he isn't back to the basket as much.
Yep.
He's definitely worked on being front, squaring up. And he doesn't have that. I mean, the first piece I ever wrote on him as a featurey thing, I described him as a stack of rectangles. And it was because the way he played was kind of crazy quilt. He would jab step. He still does the jab step, but not like every single post up.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to be that once he was totally defeated by the defense, while he was in the air and his coming down and his feet were like 1/8 of an inch off the ground, he'd give this really, really weak pass just to get off it. And we saw that like on a regular in the first month or two he was with the team. And so that whole, the rectangles thing was meant to be because he's an edgy, sharp guy in terms of, you run into him, he's a bruiser, but it also was that the stack could be easily toppled over. He wasn't as balanced physically in himself. And that's been the difference that I see. I see him really confidently not overtaxing his moves, simplifying to some extent, being quicker to some extent.
That's mine. Quick, fast,
and
decisive.
Using his vision a lot more. And again, some of that is knowing where his teammates are going to be, as he referenced, and his teammates knowing what his lines of sight are, when it's the best time. Like he loves to hit people almost in the corner, not quite in the slot, at kind of middle zone. When he's like just inside the foul line, his zone of operation, and he sees somebody float there, they're going to get the pass more often than not. Even, they can be Jalen Clark or, a guy shooting 25% from three. He'll make that pass because he likes that pass. And, it's a fun thing. It's one of the few bright spots that is, as you say, feeling very reliable and repeatable.
I am curious though, now like teams have had 5 games of scout on
Mhm.
them, and you can't watch these 5 games without putting together that
Take away that head.
if
of
we
the
could
snake.
take,
Right.
and so the question becomes with Julius Randle, how do you take him away without bringing a second defender all the way? Because they'll
Mhm.
punish that. And
Right.
for a lot of players, I mean, you look at Jokic, like
Right.
there is not an answer to that.
Right.
Because if you guard him with one, he'll score, and if you bring that second, he'll.
Right.
But there's all this like there's this whole gradient between 1 and 2 guys,
Right.
and why Jokic is the best player in the league is he understands 1.1, 1.2, 1.7, 1.8, all of that stuff. And I would assume, like I was referencing with the late help, that teams are going to start finding things that make this a little less rhythmic for Julius here. But it isn't like he hasn't seen different things thus far this season, and it's been 5 straight games of rhythmic the whole time.
I would say if I were devising the best, with the ideal personnel,
Mhm.
it would be with a big and a small, double down with a small, and have the other people fly around for the pass. I think that if he gets double teamed with a big and a small, he knows the small is looking to steal. He knows the big is looking to body him. And if both are coming at the same time, he'll get rid of it.
Yeah.
And if he does, I think where his passes go are fairly predictable in his sweet spots. Like I said, that place between the slot and the corner is one. He likes to kick out weak side for, a little behind him sometimes if he's rolling kind of, but knows where somebody's going. I think scouts and film will show where he likes to pass. And so what I would do is bottle him up early and hope he can start to intercept his passes.
One thing Finch said too, and you referenced this in the piece, was he feels like he can play Julius anywhere right now,
Right.
which is a good counter to the impending adjustment or incoming adjustments
Agreed.
that defenses
Yeah,
are going to have.
If the small can't double down,
Yeah,
if
right,
he's out
yeah.
there, right, exactly. And you don't necessarily want to bring a big up. I mean, I can see him, and I actually think he would be a pretty good screener on the pick and roll.
Yeah.
These would be especially good in the Nas Julius minutes,
Mhm.
putting him out on the perimeter on offense. Because you're going to play more spread anyway. You don't have Rudy as a complicating factor.
More spread, more spread, more spread. Okay, in the last 5 minutes, you remember the Dante DiVincenzo three above the break on the left side, cut it close.
Yep.
That came off of Conley Randle spread pick and roll,
That's
where DiVincenzo's man had to come in to tag Julius Randle on the roll there. That's a simple read. Mike's left-handed DiVincenzo, who's there to catch and shoot it. Remember the Mike Conley feed to Jaden McDaniels under the basket with like a minute left for the dunk?
That was beautiful.
It was beautiful. You know how that started? Conley Randle spread pick and roll at the top of the floor in that possession, and you get off of it.
And the focus of the
shifted.
defense wasn't on the weak side.
That's what I'm saying, man. There, it's not like there aren't parts of the Wolves' offense as currently constructed, even with Ant, that aren't working. It's working. Like they've had basically the same offensive rating every single game.
Right.
They're scoring at the same rate when Ant was here, when he wasn't, as a team game to game. And I just think it's going to be about adding more things onto that. And when you have a rough game, having another lever to pull. And I think Julius, like right now, is all of those levers, hypothetical levers, include Julius Randle.
So there is a for the Finch haters, or for the Finch lovers for that matter, there's a real collision there because he loves Julius Randle and he doesn't like pick and rolls.
Yes.
So you buy into the fact that it makes Julius Randle better and more central to the offense, or do you not buy into the fact that, we're having to run pick and rolls? I don't know which way Finch will lean.
I think you would buy into that part for the Randle piece of it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure he would buy as much into the Gobert part that I was suggesting earlier, because understandably he'd be like, why the fuck do we need to give him the ball on offense for him to play defense? Like I get some of that too.
You know what I'm missing while we're mourning the absence of things? That Conley Rudy high pick and roll that got Mike like so many threes 2 years ago. I know that neither
like
one,
the empty corner one.
Yeah.
Neither
one of them, and also just the straight pick and roll too. I mean,
you're right.
But both of the empty corner one is another one that way. But I'm talking about the pick and roll where Rudy sets a screen and Mike jacks it up like almost right after the pick. And he's good at that. I don't know if he's still good at that. That's the issue. Whether or not, both of those guys.
I don't think that is a skill set that you lose.
I agree.
It's mostly a shot, a little bit of quickness there.
Right.
I'm with it. Like,
and it's
more
a confident shot. And now hopefully Mike is beginning to get some of his confidence back.
But like again, it just makes a ton of sense to me because it's not just Mike. Like Rob could run that.
Right.
Bones could run that.
Right.
Like you could you could use multiple different screeners. It doesn't need to be Rudy all the time.
Right.
We just referenced some Randle ones. What about Nas?
Right.
Like, what about you? Can we get Nas going in the slipping down the floor pop game there?
I actually really one of the things I was fantasizing when we were talking about Randle having to move out, position him different places on the floor, is a 4-5 pick and roll 3.
Yeah.
I mean, Nas on a Randle pick and roll, both of them out there. Are you going to play two smalls out there? You have to bring a big, right?
Yeah, he's going to roll it up. Yeah.
And if you bring a big, Nas on the roll, if they rush the pick and roll, he's gone.
Yeah.
He'll get to the rim. And so, that'd be a fun action.
Yes. Nas and Rudy ran a 4-5 pick and roll in one of the games.
Yeah.
But
that's obviously Rudy is no threat. The thing about Randle is, let's say Randle keeps. If the two people go with Nas, because two people could go with Nas if Rudy's out there. Randle either goes to the rim or has a wide open shot. Both of them, in the way he's playing right now, are really good options.
I don't care if it's the primary plan. I don't care if it's the contingency plan for like they figured out something with Randle. It just with Ant out, I think much like you would make defensive adjustments if Rudy Gobert was out for 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't be playing the same defensive style the whole time. I think there's adjustment, and we have been seeing some of that. We've been seeing more pick and roll with Rob, with Mike, with Bones. I think there's a lot there,
and more transition. Although here's a stat I came up with. My last one I've got on my little sheet here. Everybody talks about how they just have not been willing to run in transition. Well, they're 12th in frequency now.
Sure.
They're 29th in points per play. They're below a point per play in transition. They're 0.92.
It doesn't even make sense. Yeah. So they're learning.
So they're just cursed.
I'll spin it in a positive way. We were talking about, Julius's teammates better understanding him,
right?
And like where to position themselves around him, given his unique offensive game. I also think Julius is getting better at understanding his teammates and what they want to do. And I would point to Jaden McDaniels as an example of that. Like
definitely
his comfort and understanding with Jaden is up big time from last year.
And there is an affection on the court there, just you can tell by the way they play that. You know what it's like when I obviously have very limited experience of this, but if you're in sync with somebody on the basketball court, they can be an asshole in real life.
Yeah, right.
There's my guy there. This guy is rolling with me. Not that they don't like each other off the court, as far as I know they do. But there's an affinity there. There's an affection for the way each other is playing right now that is fun to watch.
Yeah. I have a Finch clip on McDaniels, so let's play that there too, because we can't not talk about Jaden McDaniels after he scores 30 points last night.
Yeah, he's been really good. I mean, his numbers are super efficient. A lot of it's coming from the early attack, which is good. He feels really comfortable at that point in time. I think he's making good decisions there. He's got to stay confident in his shot. It's 3 out of 4 from the 3-point line, and a big one we needed it. So,
how sustainable does this feel to you with Jaden?
Let's see what happens when Ant gets back.
Yeah, I was going to say, once the context changes,
he knows he has a little bit more of the green light, and he knows that there's space on the floor. It doesn't seem to bother him that, the whole Conley argument, which is a good argument that Ant brings too. So they're playing 4-on-3. I think it's because Jaden is really smart about semi-transition. Like
he's good at it.
He's good at it. And it isn't like it's a fast break, but you can kind of sense when the defense isn't ready when you're going over half court. Right. And when he sees that, he attacks. He was 0 for 3 in dunks last night, I think. But aside from that, I think he was very efficient.
That would have been it. Yeah, he had 2 in the fourth quarter that were missed dunks. Lost by 1. Yeah, no, I mean, I see more pathways forward that it does sustain than that it's derailed. I think Finch referenced the path that leads to derailment, which would be losing confidence in the shot, which we've seen that there. But doesn't Ant getting back
make
further
it all the better?
Yeah, further empower it. And Jalen too.
I do worry. I think there's a little bit too much of pride of lions, and the top 2 eat first and then everybody eats. There's a little bit too much of that mentality. I would like to see more ball movement and more make the play, whatever the right play is, rather than Ant's going to get his and Julius is going to get his. Right. And the offense is kind of structured that way. And one of the reasons why is because they're both really good at it and they both deserve what they have. Which is why I praised Julius's mid-20s usage. I think that's a good slot. But I think McDaniels has to get close to 20 to make this thing work, or even maybe 21, 22. And usage. That means it takes some usage? Usage, yeah. And in terms of that is going to require some sacrifice from those top 2 guys. And
again, I'm thinking about what are the ways, right? What are the ways that everybody eats a little bit more? I think pick and roll, to say that one more time, would be one way. But then I think it is just transition. Like, go ahead, Rob against Charlotte. Go Terrence against Rob, or against Charlotte. Like, do it.
I fancifully said in my preseason piece or season preview piece or whatever, I'd like to see McDaniels more with the second unit guys. And one of the reasons is I think he could score on cuts without Rudy on the court. And I think he's really good at it. And that is a way to get him off. It's kind of similar to what you're talking about. Cuts are different than spread pick and roll, but in a spread offense, they'd be good. And also in that kind of mid-transition phase where people aren't set. Jaden has always been really good, both at baseline cuts and slot cuts. And especially if Mike's on the floor in that second unit or somebody else, maybe, Terrence Shannon gets a clue and starts to be the playmaker he was in the preseason. But I do think that there is an ability to have a fluidity that just isn't there in that starting five that would benefit Jaden.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I think we've seen little pockets of that, and we've seen him be aggressive when those opportunities
like he is
themselves.
now. He sees, believe me, if Jaden sees something that doesn't look too obviously disruptive that he can expand his offense on, he will.
Oh yeah. He feels full license to do that.
He's ready.
Yes. And Jalen Clark coming back too. I think even just that,
absolutely, he'll make the right play.
Yeah.
May not be a perfect pass, but it'll be the right pass.
Well, and then just even defensively, it's like part of the why we like Jalen Clark on the floor is that it allows Jaden McDaniels to be off ball.
Right.
And part of the reason why we like Jaden McDaniels off ball is that provides another rim protector, but he also does have some of that Covington to him as well.
Right.
Yeah. Energy for sure. But just like Jaden off ball could blow up external actions a little bit more. And I think that leads to some more transition opportunities for himself or just the team after he gets the steal, because he's already going to be moving up the floor there. So yeah, I would vote sustainable. Which I'm not expecting a 30-point per game average, but
there's no reason you can't average 17 if the team plays the right way.
Yes, and historically it has not been consistent with him.
No,
from a scoring standpoint, the whole barometer thing. Remember?
And I know that's it. I mean, when I asked Finch, why does Jaden always seem to get off to slow starts since he just busts his ass all summer long and stays here and everything like that. Yeah. And he thought for a second, so we're probably not moving the ball well. Well, what's that tell you?
That's what makes it sticky
for that son of a bitch.
Yeah. I mean, that is probably just the like 101 level of what I'm saying. Is like,
I know
what can this team do offensively more often so you lose some of those possessions that feel aimless, or even get to their end game. And it's like, wait, the end game of this play was Rudy catching at 6 feet so he could Euro step lay in. Like, I don't want that in the offense at all, ever. Like that. I want that almost zero.
Giving
tolerance.
Up the push.
Yeah. Well, that's not the push.
I know.
I mean, that's a big frustration of mine with Rudy. Is like, we got to go back to dunking or nothing. Like the efficiency of some of those other things. You play faster. You get yourself. You run actions that are putting yourself in better positions for these guys to end plays. Like Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo. They're play finishers. Shannon, Shannon too for the most part. They're play finishers first. And they're finding themselves so often in the offense in these like
set up.
Yeah, like am I shooting here and then when you have that hesitation, that shot,
it's gone.
Yeah, it's just not the same. We missing anything else? Anything else we want to hit?
No, probably not. I mean, I think that assuming Ant's back in a week or two, it's not a tough slate of games, but we know that 2 of the past 3 seasons, the Wolves have underachieved against those teams. And a lot of that onus of that used to be on Ant, but I also think it's more of a team-wide thing. I think that there's always been a little bit of an immaturity about this team.
Moodiness, as Finch would say.
Yeah. That's right. That was an interesting word he used that time, with of Finch. I think that I quite frankly am baffled by DiVincenzo and Nas and Shannon. They have demonstrated genuine NBA skills that are frequently being self-sabotaged in a lot of ways. And
Finch said in the post-game presser last night, specifically to Nas and Dante, I have to call their number more. Plays,
yeah, well, that's generous of him.
I'm just,
I know, but
it's not the solution. I hear what you're saying.
Nas has had open shots that he's muffed almost every game.
Yeah.
Something's up there. I think it may just be a funk. It may be just that simple. It's only been 5 games. You know, if it was in the middle of the season, you go, Nas is in a slump, and that's it. You know, it's always the beginning and ends of seasons where you hyper focus on the time frame. But he needs to play better at both ends of the court. It's so many things would be solved. Sometimes the simplest answers are the right answers.
Yeah.
You know, one of the reasons the Wolves defense isn't what it used to be is because Kyle Anderson and Nickeil Alexander-Walker aren't there. And Jalen Clark is hurt and Ann is out right now. And in a similar manner, one of the reasons the Wolves aren't winning games and not they're underachieving is because one of their, you would argue, I mean, Finch is fond of saying, well, you got 3 really skilled bigs that each need a certain amount of time. Well, one of them is playing at an A level, one of them is playing at a C+ level, and one of them is playing at a D level.
Yeah. Yep.
Get them all like B+ at least, and you're going to be a lot better.
Sometimes I wonder with that, can all 3 play well at the same time, given how different they all are?
Well, and again, it was against inferior competition, but that 17-4 finish last year, they all were really good.
Yep, they were. And a couple games in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It is a huge part of their identity is the triple big thing.
Skilled, at least 2 of them.
Right? Yeah, right.
And the other one really skilled in one area, lopsided. But there is a way, this team is underachieving right now beyond Ant's injury. And it is fair to wonder, particularly Mike Conley, but also Rudy Gobert. Let's be honest about this. 5 years ago, Rudy was in his prime, and coming to Minnesota made him a different player that was just as good and maybe camouflaged a little of that aging. But he's 32 or 33 right now?
33, I think.
Yeah, 33. And he's still, there's a reason why Berenger was the way Conley went in the draft.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt Lloyd said, now we have a great second timeline guy at each of the 5 positions. And so
they're going to need something else there in time, and it feels like they need it now. But need might not be the right word, because
it's kind of like the Dillingham situation last year. Conley's on the wane, but if you played him, I mean, I love Berenger's potential. But I mean, I'm talking about the fact you're going to punt some games if you give Rob steady minutes. If you give Berenger steady minutes, you're playing with fire if you're thinking you're going to compete in the West.
Yeah, no, and that's why I think all of this, even Rob, and I don't mind just Rob in bits and pieces, like small amounts until you see something.
Yeah,
that's why I said I think Rob should be playing now, because of my vision of how
we're both in agreement on this, and I believe it more now than I did a month ago, simply because DDV and Conley haven't shown as much The
Sure.
need is there. Even if he can't fill the need now, the need to find out how quickly he can get there,
Right.
like they were on the clock for that, and they
Right.
need that to happen.
Oh, this was fun, man. You guys can read Britt's piece. It was written before the Lakers game, but hits on all of these things, has some good quotes in there. I just kind of looking at the Wolves weekend. That's up at minpost.com. I'm going to New York next week, so I'm not sure when the next time is exactly.
we'll
that
figure it out.
We'll do a pod, but we'll get a few more games in for sure before that happens, and we'll track it as it goes. The next episode will be Kyle and I tomorrow morning. We're gonna something Kyle and I want to do at the end of every month is kind of look back at the month more broadly. Obviously, we only have like a week and a half of October, but we're going to try and find some themes of the month, and not just Wolves specific, but broader NBA as well. So we'll try that out tomorrow and the last day of October, and that'll be the next episode. Until then, you guys can follow Britt on Twitter at Britt Robson and on Blue Sky, and I'm at DaneMooreNBA. So until Friday morning with Kyle, he's Britt, I'm Dane. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah.